Hello, everyone. My name is Nefertari, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about service research and its application to an educational setting, more specifically, a special education setting like the one that I work in. More often than not, when we hear the term service research, we might be inclined to think of it more in a business or corporate context, and it gives the impression that the focus is more on the profit margin or bottom line. But it's a little bit more complex than this, and this simple view does not cover what it really does. We can think of service research as the science of understanding human needs, if you will. So for today, we're going to be going through what is service research, and I'm going to be focusing on three areas where it's applicable to a special education setting having to do with student journey mapping, co-creation or collaboration, and service blueprinting. The field of service research emerged in the 1980s, and it wasn't just pioneered by one single person, inventor. It was a group of academics. Now, I've listed a few of them here. You can go ahead and read up on that if you will, because I'm not going to delve too much into that part of it. But I wanted to draw attention to something that Bowen and Fisk developed, which was 9 critical areas to guide service researchers. Now, these were known as the wisdom themes. One of this is transformative service research, which I think is very applicable to a special education setting in that, according to Anderson, this area is concerned with the development of uplifting changes and improvements in the well-being of both individuals and communities. According to Beresford, services are a key component of our lives, and they have the power to either deliver positive change or they can reproduce oppressive systems if we're not careful of what we're doing. It brings us to the idea of user-led research. McLaughlin et al. Tells us that user-led research is a methodological approach and position to a research process. It predominantly is found in the context of health and social sciences, and it prioritizes the collaboration at all stages of the research process. This is what we think about when we think of a special education setting. It's how are we collaborating at all stages? We look at the special education setting and we understand that inherently schools as a whole are very complex, diverse, dynamic ecosystems. And it is clear that a one size fits all approach is not going to work for everyone. In the context of special education, we understand again that a student's journey is going to be unique. So with service research, it can help us to visualize the journey to identify process breakdowns. In service research, we talk about we are encouraged to speak to our customers, speak to our clients, and we can create a journey map, so to speak, which details the customer's experience, which if you're going to apply it to a special education setting, then it's going to translate to the student journey mapping. We talk about touch point analysis. This is where we identify every interaction that impacts the student's experience. It's going to be from their IEP process, related services, therapy sessions, parent communication, and even their journey to and from school. And trust me when I say this, students in this capacity, they are very particular about the way that their day turns out. So if something is off, even with the journey to and from school, that is a very big indicator of how the rest of the day will most likely go. So what we're going to do is systematically start gathering data on all these different facets and the student that the student has contact with, so we can map out and identify pain points, emotions, and opportunities, creating a personalized, supportive, and effective educational pathway. It allows us to move away from the intuitive way of instructing and focus more on an evidence-based one. We're able to identify exactly where a process is failing. So the student journey map allows us to organize these touch points, if you will, chronologically, showing the highs and the lows so we can visualize the student's experience throughout the day. Another way that service research is going to be applicable is how it empowers family and student voices. Service research approach recognizes that, families and students are going to be experts in their own lived experience. The idea of co-creation engages the feedback and input of students and parents with a distinct understanding that as educators, we're not just providers. We don't have all the answers. We are collaborators. And when we show families and students that their voices matter, we're not just building trust, we're building a sense of loyalty to the organization. So essentially, families and students are customers, and we need to know if our services are actually providing what they need. Entering into a co-creative relationship from co-ideation, co-design, co-implementation, and finally co-evaluation, according to Weaver et al., is one way that we can utilize service research to engage the expertise that our stakeholders have. Another way that is service research is going to be beneficial in an educational setting is how it enhances services and improves customer retention. Because that is a very big part of service research. It's making sure that your customers are fine, that they're really benefiting from your service, and you can maintain that relationship with them. Excuse me. So we had discussed the student journey mapping, and service blueprinting is closely related to this. And it talks about the behind the scenes or the back end support of the student journey. These are the things that all the staff and administrators need to do in order to deliver the experience. And according to Roberts, service blueprinting is primarily used to improve customer satisfaction and retention, which is going to be a key success metrics for any organization, including schools. Service blueprinting, they're basically the instruments that help you to coordinate the complex, often fragmented services that are provided to students with disabilities. As I mentioned before, the journey is very unique. There's no one size fits all. Everybody has their own services, unique way of being instructed, etc. This blueprint is going to be looking at all the things that are happening in areas such as transportation services, various therapy sessions, classroom instruction, CSE meetings, even the physical and sensory elements of it all. Outlining all the things that individuals in these areas are doing are going to ensure that we have a more effective and cohesive pathway for students. There actually exists such a tool at this point. If you look on the New York State Education Department website, you'll find what is known as the Blueprint for Improved Results for Students with Disabilities. And they claim that this is a statewide framework that is intended to clarify expectations for administrators, policymakers, and practitioners to improve instruction to prepare students with disabilities for success. Think of the relationship between student journey mapping and blueprinting as you would that for a house. The blueprint shows the detailed underlying structure, which is generally invisible to the tenant or whoever. It's in the background. But then the journey mapping part of it is the part that you can actually see. It's the finished product. It's the house itself and everything that is inside of it. So the blueprint is the back end, and the student journey can be looked at as the front end. Applying service research to a special education setting context ensures that we center the voices of students and families, and we treat them as experts in the creation of their own experiences. We pay attention to mapping the students' experiences throughout the days to understand what serves as a trigger or positive outcomes or rewards. We look at the background processes enacted by administration, service providers, and instructors, and we see how they influence the student's journey. Service research is very, very, very critical in an educational setting because the bottom line is the goal of it is to allow us to create something that is a little bit more human-centric instead of business-like and profit-focused. Thank you very much for sharing with me today and for listening to this presentation.